So we're starting your notes today, actually I should say finishing your notes today where we left off in class yesterday. So that was on page 14. We did the last problem we did was that area problem where we'd multiply a length times a width, and then we used our power rules to do so. We're going to move down and finish up the notes by doing expanding, a shortcut, and then taking a look at our answer. So we'll start with the first one here. I'm going to start by expanding. Remember what that looks like. So I have x, 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 5 x's on the top, 5 x's on the bottom. And so when we talked about expanding yesterday, when I look at this, I can cancel everything off the top and off the bottom. And if I cancel everything off the top and cancel everything off the bottom, remember that I'm left with 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom. Now, if I did the shortcut method, that would be where I take x to the 5 minus 5. That leaves me with x to the 0 power. So again, over here, if I cross this off, 1 on the top and 1 on the bottom, because I can cross off, I'll do it in with a highlighter, 1 on the top, you get what I'm doing, everything off the top, everything off the bottom. I'm left with 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, or I'm left with x to the 0 power if I do that. Turns out that the answer is actually 1. This is a little tricky for some people because they're like, x to the 0 power, well, that just means I have no x's multiplied by each other. But every number has a factor of 1 in it. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But let's do the next one. It's 4 on top and 5 on the bottom, which means that when I cross them out, I'm left with 1 on the top and an x on the bottom. So remember, if you cross everything off of one level, you replace it with 1. So I have 1 on the top and the x on the bottom. Or if I write it like this, x to the 4 minus 5, I get x to the negative first power. The answer here is 1 over x. So again, this shortcut is giving me values that look different than the expanded form. And our connection today is going to be to connect these two to talk about why those are equal to each other. So I'll do the next one. This is x, x on top, x, 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 x on the bottom. Again, scribble off the top, scribble off the bottom. Keep in mind, if I cross everything off of one level, I replace it with a 1, and I have 2 x's left on the bottom. The shortcut is subtract them. That gives me x to the negative second, and the answer here is 1 over x squared. 2 x's left on the bottom. So my last one, I have to do 7 x's on the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 10 on the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to go through again and do my crossing out. For every 1 on the top, I cross out 1 on the bottom. You might be able to start doing that in your head a little bit. Know that I can cross out 7 on the top and 7 on the bottom. That means that I canceled. I have to move this down. 1 over, I have 3 x's left on the bottom. If I do it the shortcut, it's 7 minus 10, or x to the negative third. And so these two answers, correct answer here is 1 over x cubed. So we're going to make that connection to a negative power to that. And so when we move on to the next page, we'll take a look at how those power rules work. So what we noticed is if I cross out everything off the top and off the bottom and I get a 0 power, that's equal to 1. And again, that's because everything, if I think about it this way, everything has a factor of 1. So I could call this 1x to the 0 power. And what this means is I have 1 times no x's being multiplied. So that leaves me with 1. And in fact, I could rewrite this one as 1 times 2x cubed y to the second to the 0. Again, this is 1 times none of this. That leaves me with 1. Not 1 times 0. It's 1 times no x's, so my product is that 1 times not anything in this parenthesis, so it leaves me with just 1. And then when we move to the negative powers, we look at those as, if I have a negative power, I'm going to write it as 1 over that number to a positive power in the denominator. Or if I have it on both of them, I could actually flip that over. I can also take this one step further, because if I had 1 over x to the negative second, I could write that as x to the positive second over 1, or x squared. So I can move the negative to the new position and make it positive. A negative power is what we call, it works as an inverse. So what it does is it flips its location. So we're just going to practice more simplifying. And again, when you're simplifying, you want to make sure you're done when you only have each base once. That means each big one. I don't want multiple x's or multiple y's, multiple m's. There's no power on power, so I have no parentheses, none of this kind of stuff. I have all fractions simplified, so that means if I have numbers on the top and on the bottom, they're in lowest terms. And lastly, there are no negative exponents. So if I had negative exponents on the top, I move them to the bottom. If I had negative exponents on the bottom, I move them to the top. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. Well, this one's going to start very simple. I have a negative power. I just move it down to the bottom. Anything to the 0 power, again, nice and easy, 1. On this one, I can take 2 approaches, and I'm going to split my box in half, and I'm going to do the 2 approaches. Approach number 1, what we did yesterday, x to the negative 2 plus 5 equals x to the 3rd. Or what we did today, the negative power will go on the bottom, the positive power will stay on the top. Where are there more, and how many more? 3 more on the top, so there's my answer. Notice 2 different methods got me the exact same answer. When I do this next one, power on a power, hopefully you remember from yesterday that we multiply. X to the negative 6th. One of my rules is no negative exponents, so to fix that, I will bring that down to the bottom and make it positive. Final answer on that one. Final answer here. Remember, I did that 2 ways, same answer. Final answer on this one. Final answer on that one. No, not a whole lot of work on those. All right, let's take a look at this one. Now, this one is where I have the both negatives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the negative from the bottom, comes up to the top and becomes positive. The negative from the top goes down to the bottom and becomes positive. And then I say, where are there more? And how many more? There's 1 more on the top. Remember, if I wipe everything off the bottom, I replace it with a 1, but that just equals y. Now here's one where I have to bring the power through again, and it has to go to both parts. So this is a to the 2 times negative 1, b to the 1 times negative 1, because b to the first is there. So that's a to the negative 2nd, b to the negative 1st. What do I do with negative powers? I move them to the bottom and make them positive. But because I moved it off the top, I can't just leave that empty. I've got to replace that top with 1, because I think about there being a 1 as a factor of everything, so the 1 stayed on top. I don't worry about it on the bottom, but I definitely worry about it on the top, because it's a really big difference. Like 2 over 1 is the same as 2. But 1 over 2 is not the same as 2, so keep that in mind. I don't need it on the bottom, but I definitely need it on the top. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And if I have this down on the bottom, I can bring that up to the top and make it positive. Likewise, if I have that negative 3 down on the bottom, I can bring it up to the top and make it positive. Remember, I could put this over 1. I could put this over 1, but I don't really need the 1 on the bottom, and I actually don't even need the first power. So I could rewrite this as just x. In fact, back on this one, I could write this as 1 over a squared b. So there's my final answer, final answer, final answer, final answer. All right, so I just went through those negative powers and 0 power. This is your job. You need to finish the 1.4 homework. You did through 10 for your assignment yesterday. You have to do 11 to the end, and I don't exactly remember how many there are on there. I think it might be 20, I'm not sure, but to the end. So 11 to the end. And then next time we meet, which is on Friday, for us that's Friday, or if you are a B day, that's Monday. So A day, this is Friday. For our B day students, this is Monday. The next day we meet, you're going to have a review and a quiz. So come with questions, and I will see you then next time we meet. Have a great day.